Thank you, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center. I am pleased to be joined by Kendra Schmidt, who most of you have all learned to get to know from Deaf Access Services, who will be providing the American Sign Language for us today. It is a great day, as while the sign says on their Buffalo Niagara Convention Center, very soon it will just say the Buffalo Convention Center, as we're pleased to reveal the new design for the facade of the Buffalo Convention Center. Thank you. Thank you. As we announced last year, as part of the Renew Plan, with the additional assistance that we have from the federal government as well as additional surplus dollars from Erie County, we were going to change the facade, not restore it, but change it with a new design that was more appropriate for 2021 and beyond, not a design that was appropriate for 1978 when this facility was opened. Unfortunately, through the years, we've heard from our friends in the convention and visitors business that one of the worst attributes of our convention center in trying to attract business to our area was the 1970s era brutalist facade. It may have been the top of the architectural design in 1975 and 76, but today it just exudes the old Buffalo. This is the new Buffalo. Buffalo is back, and we should not have a convention center that looks like it was built in 1970. Now, the last time I was here, pretty much on the stage in the same position, I was joined by Patrick Kaler, who you'll hear from as well, in which we announced design and ideas for a new convention center to be built across the street. That was February of 2020. We all know what has happened since then. And there has been a marked change in the Convention and Visitors Bureau worldwide. To give you an example of that, just last week I was at an event on behalf of the National Association of Counties where there normally would have been hundreds of individuals attending, coming together to discuss matters. I'm a member of the executive board, so I had to attend. It was only about 70 people. Nobody knows exactly what the convention business will look like when we finally come out of this pandemic. We understand that there have been many changes, supply chain changes, changes in the way that people are doing retail and purchasing now, and it appears to be a big change as well as with regards to the convention and visitors business. So last year, after discussing with others, we decided rather than to try to move ahead with a nearly $500 million new center, that we would invest in the current facility to keep it vibrant and a facility that people would want to attend at least for the next 10 years. So we decided to do a number of things, including a complete restoration of the lobby. The lobby, as you see, has brand new flooring, brand new backlit wood panels on the side, and it will also very soon have new doors. Well, we realized that one of the reasons that we needed new doors is to make this lobby better, but also to accommodate the convention and visitors business that actually comes to the facility. And we could get more business if we had a more attractive facility. That's why last year I announced that we would be investing in a new facade for this facility. And that's what we are releasing today. I want to thank our partners in Visit Buffalo Niagara, specifically Patrick Kaler and Mike Even, who were part of the committee that was reviewing basic designs to determine what was appropriate. And I really want to thank the partners from Visit Buffalo Niagara because their experience and expertise in the Convention and Visitors Bureau drove part of this design. Because we want something that strikes out and says Buffalo, but we also want something that people from across North America would be proud to hold their event at. We know, and I've heard it myself when I've talked with site selectors for conventions, that the biggest problem they always said is it looks like an old building that nobody wants to be in. It will no longer look like an old building that nobody wants to be in. We know with our convention center team here, we can compete with any convention center of appropriate size. And in some ways, we are much better when it comes to the food service and other services that we offer at this facility than other convention centers across North America. But we could never compete with the exterior. When they see these bright, shiny places elsewhere, and they come here and they see this dark, dank concrete. So to our friends in Visit Buffalo Niagara, thank you for your expertise. Thank you for your work in coming forth and helping us come up with a design that is appropriate for our community and is appropriate for the business in North America when it comes to convention and visitors. I want to thank the Department of Public Works and their staff, starting with Commissioner William Gary, for the time and effort that they put in to come up with a design that works, and also, as we'll talk about, provides more features that we don't necessarily have at the current facility. I also want to thank our partners at Troutman Associates, who came up with multiple designs, the final one which you see here today, which I think is very reflective of our community, as well as what we stand for in the New Buffalo. What you are seeing is a combination steel plating and backlit polycarbonate design, in which the blue and gray slices there are steel. And that's a nod to our beautiful waterfront. We have the water. What many parts of the country wish they had, great fresh water, we have. That's a nod to it. And the white area that you see in the design is a backlit polycarbonate design. And when I say backlit, it can be lit to any color. So if we're celebrating the Buffalo Bills' victory over the Kansas City Chiefs and we want this thing to look red, white, and blue, it's going to be red, white, and blue. If it's Domestic Violence Awareness Day, we'll have it the appropriate color for Domestic Violence Awareness Day. If we have a group coming in from outside the area and their colors are purple and gold because they're royal, we'll make it purple and gold for them. We want this facility to be representative of our community, but also welcoming to the visitors who will come here and spend their money here. I look at this as a tremendous investment in our local economy. Because of the money that we will be putting forth for this investment, we will see more individuals coming into our community in the long run, more dollars into our hotels, more dollars into our restaurants, more dollars into our retail establishments, and as a result of that, a stronger economy. One of the things that we're also doing with regards to this new facility is we are actually raising the roof, so to speak, a little bit. So when you're walking underneath it, it won't seem as dark and tight as it is right now. It'll be better lighting and there'll be more wayfaring signs so people can actually know where they're going from the outside of the facility before they walk into the facility. It's just another example of how we want to make this convention center truly one that is welcoming to our friends from across the community, whether they're here for the bridal show like they were this last weekend, the car show. I'm sure the folks with the world's largest disco will be disappointed we're getting rid of the 1970s era design, but everyone else will be happy. And then to those who come from outside the area, I think they'll look at this facility and be wowed. And they'll say, this is the new Buffalo. Buffalo is back, and this is proof of it. So to all who played a role, thank you very much. Mary Roberts, to the Visitors Board, thank you for the board members and all their support of this project and the other projects we've done. We are putting on the back burner right now the new convention center. It makes no sense to invest $500 million on a facility that may not be needed in the future because of a change in the convention and visitors business. But we can't get out of the convention and visitors business. We can't get out of the conferences business. That's why it makes sense to invest in this facility with a bright new design that'll be representative of our community for today and tomorrow. Because I guarantee you, this design will still look good years from now, unlike the design we have today, a facade that when you walk up to it, immediately you realize that this was built 50 years ago. So thank you to all who've played a role, and I specifically want to give a big thank you to Patrick Kaler from Visit Buffalo Niagara and his team, because it was their expertise that helped drive the design so that it was appropriate not only for our region, but also for the convention and visitors business that we are seeking to attract here in the new Buffalo. With that, Patrick, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome back to the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center after 19 very long months. We're thrilled to be back in business, as the county executive said, and looking forward to many more of the capital improvement projects that are to come, especially the facade. Prior to the pandemic, the convention center generated about $43 million worth of economic impact to our community through on average, about 148 events that would take place over the course of 271 days out of the year. So that's a pretty big turnaround in this building, with lots of different events taking place, with over 200,000 people walking through the doors for all of those meetings and conventions, special events, and consumer shows. So we work very closely with the U.S. Travel Association in conjunction with Tourism Economics, who is truly the gold standard of tourism research and economics. And they have estimated that as we come out of the pandemic and our recovery phase, that meetings and conventions will not return to 2019 levels until 2024. So it's been a perfect opportunity for the county to make these really necessary improvements to our overall physical plant here at the convention center. As I mentioned, so many of the events and conventions that would come through the building, big economic impact as well. As of this week through 2024, we have 259 events on the books with over 520 attendees. That will be generating over 70,000 room nights and stimulating our local economy to the tune of $73 million in economic impact. Now, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. This is still a very fluid situation. We are still continuing to sell and market the destination. So those numbers are only going to increase. Next year alone, we have 113 events on the books for 2022. Again, those numbers will probably change, and we'll probably be increasing those as we continue to open up our doors. These numbers are so important to our county and the existing physical plan of the center. Again, you're standing or sitting in the oldest convention center in the United States. And the feedback from our existing and potential clients has been exactly what we have been relaying to the county executive and the county leadership, to the county legislature, as far as why we need to continue to be competitive in the meetings and convention and event market. They have listened to us. One of the other great things is later this week we'll be bringing back the Visit Buffalo Niagara and the Buffalo Niagara Convention Center Customer Advisory Council. This group of meeting professionals, association executives, vice presidents, really the thought leaders of our industry, will be coming to Buffalo this week to, again, share their ideas, help us mold our sales practices for the next year, but we also get to share with them our new lobby and the plans for the new facade. I'm excited to share all of this with our Customer Advisory Council so that they can see that their words have not gone unnoticed, that they are being implemented and that they are being heard. So on behalf of the Visit Buffalo Niagara Board of Directors, our staff, and our tourism industry, I want to thank County Executive Mark Poloncarz, the Erie County Legislature, Commissioner Geary, and the Erie County staff for taking the industry standards and feedback to make these initial improvements and the projects yet to come, especially the facade. This will keep Buffalo competitive in the meetings and convention and event market. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick. And as Patrick noted, it is not expected that the convention and visitors business will return to pre-2019 levels until a few years from now, and we still really don't know what it's going to be like beyond that. So this is, we believe, is a wise investment, a target investment, a strategic investment to ensure that we do not fall behind compared to our peer communities when it comes to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We actually create new business, and I believe this will result in new business with all the work that we've done here and other plans that will continue. And as a result of it, we'll have a better, stronger economy for all. With that, I'll be glad to open up to any questions. Sandra?
I'm curious to know why you guys decided to drop the word Niagara from Buffalo Niagara Convention Center. I think many people who come to the Buffalo Convention Center come with the expectation that they're going to get to see Niagara Falls, which is probably the single greatest draw. So I'm curious as to the conversation that went into that.
It was a discussion with our partners at Visit Buffalo Niagara, who basically we determined that people come here for Buffalo just as much for, if anything, Niagara Falls. And we wanted to be representative of Buffalo. While, yes, we have this wonder of the world not too far away, the conventions we often get are for individuals who are coming here and staying here. They're staying at the hotels, they're going to the restaurants, maybe they make a day trip to Niagara Falls or stop off in the evening. But what's the draw now is Buffalo. Maybe 30 years ago when they changed the name, or 20 years ago, it was Niagara Falls because we were headed in the wrong trajectory as a community, but we're not anymore. We wanted to stress that. Chris?
So what do you do with the plans for a new convention center? Do you put them in a drawer and keep them there until 2030, 40, or when you say it's on the back burner, does that mean they're dead, or how would you characterize that?
The question was with regards to the new convention center plans or the dead. I wouldn't say dead, but they are not the priority right now. There's a number of big things that we're going to be working forward in the next few years, and we realize to invest in what would be a very, very expensive project without any real guarantee of return would make no sense. And I do not want to be in a situation where I straddle this community with hundreds of millions of dollars in debt and then not be able to see a return from it. And I don't know what it's going to look like. None of us know what it's going to look like 2-3 years from now, nevertheless 10 years from now. So it does not make sense to move forward with that project right now. We have design ideas and concepts, but it's not like we hired architects to actually design a facility. We started to move ahead with condemnation of properties. We didn't. So it was a decision, do we move ahead and potentially spend $500 million on something that might not be necessary? Or do we invest in the facility we have, knowing that that'll be a good return on investment for the next 10 years, and in the meantime, figure out what we need for the future? That's the decision that we made. Ron?
Yeah, Mark, how much does the stadium funding question become a part of this equation? Because let's face it, that's gonna be a heavy ask too, and to do these both together, as you said, this is on the back burner, but is that part of the decision too?
There's a discussion about the stadium. Let's just say we always have a lot of projects that we have to do. And the discussion with regards to the stadium is in some ways separate. That's one way or another, whether it was a major renovation or a new build, is going to be a large dollar figure. I'm not adverse to doing big projects together. I don't think there's a problem with that. But we have a lot of other big projects that maybe aren't as interesting to the general public, but cost a lot of money, like sewer plants and works like that. But, so we have a lot going on, but it wasn't the driving factor, thinking, oh, I might have to do this for a stadium and then I have a convention. No, it was not the driving factor. The driving factor was the impact on the convention and visitors business in our community, as well as a number of other things too, with where we were going to see the Statler, what the Statler was going to be, the Hyatt, because it was down. Doug Jamal is invested in both, of course. So it made sense to invest in this facility right here. And then, as we say, put on the back burner the decision, which will eventually have to be made, whether we build a new one or not, and where. Well, we think we know the right place for it, but now is not the right time. Kevin?
What is the cost of this project, and where's the money coming from?
Well, it's out to bid right now. There's two portions to the project, some of which is already in our capital borrowing, which is the doors and the entryway. That portion we actually borrowed, I think, about $1.5 million or in our capital. And then we have money set aside from the Renew Plan, about a little less than $5 million for the Renew Plan. But the project's out to bid. We are expecting to get bids back, and once we do, we'll take it to the legislature. I don't know the exact total of what it'll be in the end. It definitely will be less than $10 million. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, I think what will happen is we'll have a project that we can be proud of as a community when it comes to our convention center. And I believe this is the type of investment that begets more investment in dollars through Convention and Visitors Bureau business to our community. So that is one of those things where sometimes you invest in a sewer plant, people aren't all that too excited, it doesn't generate more for the economy, but it's necessary. This is a project that can actually generate more for our local economy and also build some pride as well. Jim, I think you had a question?
How important is it to do this project now by the fact that Doug Jamel owns the Statler, owns some, will be owning the Mahoney soon, and obviously now owns the Hyatt? How much did that come into your consideration for pushing it forward now?
Well, I think it was important, the question was how important it was with Doug Jamel doing the investment in the Hyatt, the Statler, and now the Mahoney Building. I think it's important just from a community base, regardless of who was doing the investment at those. I mean, if the Statler sat vacant, that's a problem. If the Hyatt sat vacant, that's a problem, especially for convention and visitors business. But we felt it was an appropriate investment to make for the community in general, regardless of what Mr. Jamal does. I consider Doug a friend, but I don't think he was moving ahead with the project across the street at the Statler, regardless of what we were doing here, because he's primarily putting apartments in there. If he was putting a whole hotel, it was like the rebirth of the old Statler, that would have had a tremendous difference, but in the end, not so much. I think it's important that we have a vibrant area around our convention center. Nobody, and that was a big problem we heard with convention and visitors when they looked across the street. Sorry about putting my hand in front of your face, Kendra. Is they would see this frontage of the Statler, and it would have the pictures of renovation coming soon that were on there for like a decade. So it didn't send a good message to people who were coming into town or looking to cite a conference that you had an old facility and you had a rundown hotel that was being basically abandoned on this side. So it all plays a role. I don't know, Patrick, you want to say anything on this?
No, I think that's really important. You know, during the pandemic and the situation at the Hyatt came into play, honestly, my heart sank because we need that property to be in operation as our selling proposition for the convention center. To have, you know, close to 400 rooms connected to the convention center is just critically important. With his other projects, those are also going to be very important to our overall selling proposition as well. To have a boutique property right across the street from the convention center is going to help attract some other meetings and conventions, as well as whatever hotel accommodations that Mr. Jamal puts into the Statler. So it just helps our overall selling proposition to have these types of hotel projects so close to the convention center. I also want to give a big kudos to the county executive who has picked up on our industry lingo, talking about site visits and things like that. He's really got it, and he's doing a good job of it.
Mark, circling back to this building, 20 months ago, you were talking about it being too small, too obsolete. There were a lot of conventions that could come to Buffalo that weren't because they're too small, too obsolete. Don't those conditions still exist in this new facade or not?
The difference is we've had a global pandemic which has completely changed the convention and visitors business. As I said, I just gave you an example where normally would have been hundreds of individuals at a conference last week, and it was 70. A lot of conferences are going now to a mixed conference of virtual and in person, and I don't know when that's going to change. So we talk about the size of the facility and the issues associated with the facility. There are still some issues when you talk about the size of what we could have competed had we not had a global pandemic. But I don't know, none of us really know, what the future is going to bring. I mean, all we got to look at is downtown. I was driving through downtown Buffalo today around some of our largest employers and just before 9 o'clock, and it was dead. Why? Because people are not back at work. They're still at home. They're working virtually. I mean, M&T invested millions of dollars in a tech hub at One Seneca Tower, Seneca One, whatever it's called, and they're still not really utilizing it because all those individuals are working from home. And that's impacted every industry, including the convention and visitors industry. So it's possible, as 10 years from now, we'll look back and say it's a good thing we didn't build a new convention center because we didn't need it, because there's been an incredible change. We won't know that. And I think it would be foolhardy to just push ahead with a project saying we were going to do it in the past, we're going to do it in the future, regardless of whether it's appropriate. And I built my reputation before I was county executive as county controller of cleaning up our finances and ensuring that our finances and things are done well. And I'm still doing that as county executive to ensure that we're not moving ahead with these pie-in-the-sky projects just because somebody wants it. Things have changed. We all know that. And we need to recognize that, and that's why we're making these strategic investments now, as compared to just moving ahead with a project that might not even make sense because of the changes that we've seen in the world. Andy, did you have a question?
Yeah, how much did the prospect of having to ask for quite a bit of state funding for a new convention center sort of change given the deficit at the time and now pandemic spending, those sorts of things?
Well, the question was what impacted the deficit spending, asking the state for a lot of money at a situation where it had a multi-billion-dollar deficit have an impact, and I'm not going to deny it did. There was no doubt the state was not in a situation to be doing these big projects like they were in the past. Thankfully, we are no longer dealing with the cuts that we saw in the past, but the state still has some significant financial issues to deal with in the long run. It's great to have a governor who understands the issues that we deal with here, and Kathy Hochul. And I know she's as big a supporter as Buffalo as any, but that doesn't mean that she was going to plop down hundreds of millions of dollars for a new convention center when this state still has issues that they have to deal with going forward. So I'm not going to deny it had an issue. It was an important factor to be taken in account of. Times have changed. Simple as that. And just anybody else who hasn't asked a question yet first?
Yeah, how
Go.
long it's gonna take, and you're doing the whole front of the building, is it gonna interfere with stuff, what do you think's gonna happen?
The question was, how long is it going to take, and will it interfere because we're doing the whole front of the building? We're going to be basically doing it in two pieces. It's going to be done in a half and a half, so that you can still have individuals walking in. The goal is to start first quarter of next year. I'd actually love to get it started last quarter of this year, but I think it's first quarter of next year is the goal, and to have it finished by December of next year. So what would be done is, whether it's the north side or the south side, one of them would be chosen to be the first portion of it. And then they start doing the work associated with that. Then once that's finished, they move on to the other side. And one thing I neglected to say as well is we're going to do work on the entire facility with regards to power washing, cleaning, making certain it's repointed properly, so that the rest of the exterior will get a makeover, but not a complete new design, but will be cleaned, will be tightened up, so to speak. So that'll be going on at the same time as well. But the most important aspect of it is we didn't want to shut down the facility after reopening it and having all these conferences come in. We want people to understand we're investing in the facility, but we didn't want to tell them, oh, you got to go in through the back entrance or the entrance off of Court Street entrance. So we're basically going to do it in half at a time. Finish one half, move on to the other half. Yes, James.
Any thought about doing anything on the Court Street side at Mill Plaza? It sort of sits there.
We're going to entertain all options with regards to the facility going forward. I have also talked to Yanni Seren of the Albright Knox Art Gallery about potentially putting murals on the backside of Pearl. And I think it's a great location for future murals. Instead of seeing that wall of concrete, you would have these gorgeous murals that you see popping up. So we're looking at all options, but ones that we know are not going to be very expensive to implement. Kevin?
Aside from the exterior, the facade and the lobby, what type of upgrades are gonna be done inside? As in, like the exhibit hall or things like that? Because some people might say, oh, you know, they're just putting a tuxedo on a pig, basically. So what's gonna be done inside to make it more attractive?
Well, the exhibit hall's actually in pretty good shape. We have, the one advantage we have here that we would not have actually had across the street is you have an unimpeded exhibit floor. There's no columns. That is huge in the convention and visitors business. If we were to build across the street because of the size of the building, we would actually have to have columns in place. That is one of the big attractions of our facility, is that you have this floor that's just wide expanse. Over time, we've done other investments here. We've invested in the food service. We've invested in a number of aspects of it, and we will continue to do target investments that make sense for the facility. And as you can see, I mean, this backlit wall, this is all new. This is new. It's to make it brighter. The doors will be redone, as we said, to make it easier entrance, more access, including for not just pedestrians, but vehicles, so that we actually have a facility that all is used appropriately. So I would say that one of the largest investments we've done in the last few years, and it's been a continuing investment, doesn't sound exciting, but I'll turn it over to Patrick to say why it's important, is the complete renovation of the bathrooms. Heard that a lot from him.
See, I get the sexy stuff. That was one of the biggest complaints that we did receive from our clients and our customers, and just the general public coming into the facility were the bathroom facilities. They were truly outdated. The mechanics were outdated. And so the county did, a couple years ago, prior to the pandemic, make a major investment into all the restroom facilities, bringing them up to date. It was funny because the bathrooms looked more modern than the lobby area of the building. So now we're at least catching up to the rest of the building. So, but that was something that we did hear quite often from the public utilizing the facility, were the outdated restrooms. But again, I think that is another aspect of the county listening to our clients and our customers and the visitors, and really putting the money behind those projects that were necessary.
Mark, 3 months ago, you had indicated at least preliminary conversations have been taking place with some state officials about funding for a new convention center. How far along did those talks end up going? Did it ever get to the point where the county asked for a specific amount, and did the state turn it down?
The question was, how far did talks go in New York State with regards to a investment for the new proposed convention center? And I can tell you, they didn't go very far, because we announced it in February. I had discussed it with some people prior to that, and 1 month later, we were in the middle of the pandemic. So, and then, of course, the financial crisis hit everyone, and they didn't get very far, because at that point, everything was off the table. And not just our projects, but projects across New York State. If they hadn't been approved in the funding stream and the pipeline, nothing moved. And that's exactly what's pretty much happened across the board, is for New York State, is none of these projects, including ones that they would have considered, moved. If they hadn't been approved in the pipeline with the funding secured, they weren't moving ahead. So that did not go very far.
Talk a
Andrew?
little bit about financing for this project. I know you've set aside money in the renew plan, and there's some money in the capital budget for next year, but that doesn't sound like it's going to be enough to cover all of the improvements that you're planning to make. So if you could just talk about where the money will be coming from.
I don't know exactly. I can't really answer that question until we get the bids back. We think we have enough money set aside between the renew plan and the capital funding that was set aside. If not, we'll go back and we'll find it. It's not, and we're not talking about tens of millions of dollars. It would just be a small difference in the overall cost.
Would you use any of the bed tax dollars?
Would I use any of the bed tax dollars? We could use any various line of dollars that are available, as long as they're coming in through our operating, whether it's bed tax, sales tax. We've had some great sales tax numbers in this past year, which has helped with a surplus that we're anticipating for the remainder of this year. So we have lots of revenue lines that could be theoretically used. As I said, we are trending to have a very significant surplus by the end of this year because of the huge increase primarily in sales tax, especially internet sales, that we had not seen in the past, and we certainly didn't get in 2020. We budgeted conservatively for 2021, and there was a reason why. I didn't want to be in a situation where I was going to have to shut down services, lay off people in the middle of the year. We've had some positive developments with regards to our budget for this year, which also sets us up nicely for next year. And that's why I feel confident that if there is a little bit of a shortfall, we would be able to meet it with the dollars that we have, especially those that would be in a surplus from this year. I don't anticipate any further borrowing for this project. So it's not like that we would borrow additional money for this project above and beyond the money that we had set aside for the doors. Anything else? All right. Thank you all for being here. It's good to see a lot of you in person. I haven't seen many of you in quite some time. I'm sure you saw a lot of me on TV, more than you'd like. Most importantly to all, be safe and well out there. Take care.